today, we're answering a question millions of dog owners have asked. Why does your dog stay so close to you? Why do they follow you from room to room? Why do they wait by the door? Why do they sleep on your clothes when you're gone? And why, no matter where they are, do they always seem to keep one eye on you? The answer is far deeper than most people realize. And once you understand it, you may never look at your dog the same way again. A woman named Sarah left for work every morning at 7 a.m., and every morning, her dog, Max, did exactly the same thing. He walked her to the front door, sat down, and watched her leave. At first, she thought it was cute, but one day, her neighbor told her something strange. After Sarah left, Max stayed in that exact spot for hours. No toys, no playing, no running around, just waiting. Then one afternoon, Sarah came home unexpectedly early, and what she found stopped her in her tracks. Max was curled up on her old jacket, his nose pressed deep into the fabric, eyes closed, completely still, as if that jacket was the only thing keeping him calm. At the time, she didn't understand why, but science does, and what researchers have discovered about this behavior reveals something extraordinary about how dogs see the people they love. Most people assume dogs stay close because they're loyal, or because they're social animals, or maybe because they're hoping for food. But researchers started asking a different question. What does a dog actually think their owner is? Not what we think. What does the dog's brain believe? And the answer is fascinating. Research suggests that dogs don't simply view us as companions. To them, we can become something much bigger, a source of safety, a source of comfort, a guide, a protector. In psychology, there's a term for this, a secure base, and understanding those two words explains almost everything. The following, the waiting, the checking back, the sleeping on your clothes, the staying close during storms. None of it is random, and none of it is simply neediness. It is attachment. Think about a small child exploring a new place. They wander around. They investigate. They become curious. But every few moments, they look back. They check where their parent is. Not because they're afraid, but because knowing that trusted person is nearby makes the world feel safe. Researchers discovered something remarkably similar in dogs. In one study, dogs were given a puzzle to solve. The researchers changed only one thing, whether the owner was present. When owners sat quietly in the room, the dogs worked longer, tried harder, and stayed more engaged, even when the owner did absolutely nothing. But when a stranger replaced the owner, the effect disappeared. The dogs weren't looking for help. They weren't looking for instructions. They simply performed better knowing their person was there. The owner's presence alone changed everything. And that's exactly what psychologists mean by a secure base. Someone whose presence makes the world feel manageable. Now think about something many dog owners notice. You're out on a walk. Your dog runs ahead. Then suddenly, they turn around and look at you. A few seconds later, they do it again and again. Many people think this is just habit, but researchers believe something deeper is happening. Dogs use a behavior called social referencing. It's the same behavior seen in young children. When they encounter something unfamiliar, they look at someone they trust. They ask a silent question. Is this safe? How should I react? Researchers found that dogs often look to their owners before responding to uncertain situations. They're reading your body language, your emotions, your reactions. Because in many ways, you've become their emotional compass. The world makes more sense when they know how you feel about it. And then there's scent, perhaps the most powerful connection of all. In 2014, neuroscientist Gregory Burns and his team conducted an extraordinary experiment. Dogs were trained to remain completely still inside MRI scanners while awake. Researchers then presented different scents, the scent of unfamiliar dogs, familiar dogs, strangers, and members of their own household. What they discovered was remarkable. When dogs smelled a familiar human, the reward centers of their brains became especially active, even though that person wasn't physically present, just their scent. Think about that for a moment. Your scent alone can bring comfort to your dog, which suddenly explains something many owners have seen. The shirt on the floor, the jacket on the couch, the blanket on the bed. Your dog curls up beside it. Not because the fabric matters, but because you do. To your dog, your scent is a reminder that safety exists, that home exists, that you exist. And then comes the hardest part, leaving. Your dog knows your routine. They recognize the sound of your keys, the way you put on your shoes, the small signals that tell them you're about to go. What they don't fully understand is when you'll return. Researchers have found that many dogs show signs of distress when separated from their owners, not because they're stubborn, not because they're misbehaving, but because attachment makes separation difficult. When a secure base disappears, the world can feel uncertain. That's why some dogs wait by doors, why some ignore food, why some sleep where your scent is strongest. They're not being dramatic. They're coping, the best way they know how. And every minute feels easier once you're home again. But perhaps the most beautiful part of this relationship is that dogs often seem to notice when we're struggling. Many owners tell the same story. A difficult day, a stressful week, a painful loss, and somehow their dog becomes quieter, closer, more attentive. Researchers continue studying how dogs respond to human emotions, and evidence suggests they can pick up on subtle changes in our behavior, facial expressions, and even scent. They may not understand the reason behind our sadness, but they often recognize that something is different, and when they sense it, many choose to move closer, not because they're trained to, not because someone told them to, but because closeness is what attachment looks like. So what does all of this tell us? Your dog follows you because you are their secure base. They look back during walks because you're their emotional reference point. They sleep on your clothes because your scent brings comfort. They wait at the door because that's where you always return. And when life becomes difficult, they move closer because being close to you is how they show they care. One dog owner once wrote something heartbreaking after losing their dog. They said, "I would give anything for 30 more seconds, just 30 more seconds of him following me into the kitchen. Not one more day, not one more week, just 30 seconds. Because they finally understood what that following meant. It wasn't habit. It wasn't routine. It was love. A quiet kind of love. A love that asked for very little and gave everything. Your dog is not behind you because they have nowhere else to be. They stay close because in their world, you are home. And every time they follow you from one room to another, they may be saying the simplest thing they know how to say. I feel safe with you. Don't go too far. I'll be right here. This is Canid Mantor, where we understand dogs not just as pets, but as emotions that walk beside us. If your dog does something you've never understood, tell us in the comments below. We'd love to hear your story.